So we join back in after part one, where the players had headed over to see Dimitrius, the associate of Madame Oracle with a skill for binding. What could have been a very long negotiation turned into a very short one, as Dante actually was very forthcoming. I think I said actually like 3 times then.
Actually, quite surprising.
Four times actually.
Yeah. But yes, after which they have agreed that Demetrius is going to attempt to unbind Tenebris from Dante before rebinding him in the sword, I think is the plan. And as our group exited the strange tower filled with moving, spying eyes all over, they encountered a strange, if not fearful, human covered in scars and clearly worn and bruised from fighting enter through. Dante, noticing they took an interest in him for a bit longer than Dante would like, but for Volu and Eleni, their alternative natures told them that that was not a person to be near for long. And we join them now as Eleni merging from their invisibility, putting Volu down.
Yeah, and I would hurry to catch up with Dante then. Still making sure that Volu's with me, but almost like, let's go. And as we got into the cart, I would turn to Dante and say, who the fuck was that?
Who?
You didn't see him? The guy that walked past in the hood?
Oh. The guy that has a moody face and a smouldering look. Don't like him.
There's something more to it, Dante, than that. I'd like to get out of here, though. That wasn't good.
Mm. That whole place just gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Okay, and Dante is able to set off as you begin moving away from the Zenith Wall. As you get further away, your moths do sort of begin to calm down.
I would also say, though, as we set off and as I start to calm down, I would be like, that's a lot less price than I was expecting.
I did not care about the price.
Well, obviously not, but for something that could kill him and you, 600 gold seems cheap. But I didn't see anything wrong with the contract particularly. I don't know, I thought it would be...
Just be aware
more.
That after it is done, we protect this sword from anybody, including those who are casting the spell. Just because they agreed to do this job does not mean they agree not to rob us afterwards. And I might be particularly weakened after it. I do not know how I will feel, if I feel anything at all.
Are you sure you trust him, Dante?
I do not trust anyone. But the amount, but if he wants to pay and do the job. Trust in the fact that people are greedy and people are stupid.
Only 600 gold? He knows we've just won 1,000 in the race.
Maybe.
You seem particularly interested in the Afriti. I don't like the fact that he even so boldly mentioned that would be a price in itself.
I am not surprised. People like this will do anything to harness the power of what is inside me.
But what if you're dead on the floor and we're trying to help you, and then he just takes the sword and...
Then I must trust in my allies to be able to either get me back or at very least get the sword back. The sword would be the priority.
I think we all need to prepare for this ritual, whatever it is, and make sure that we've thought of all the eventualities.
his coat of arms moved anytime I did an action which either scared him or made them jump.
What, and you didn't see the pictures?
I'm not sure what a picture can do, but a suit of armor,
There
you can
was
fight
something
those.
pretty freaky in those pictures.
It was following us around and shouting at me. I didn't like it.
Was it because you stood too close for too long? Because I get that feeling sometimes.
Well, they would just give you a little like,
Eleni would actually laugh, but it's almost because she's been so nervous and on edge. It's like just like a bit of a giggle, like.
Dante's still deadpan.
And Dante, where are you heading?
To the shops. To get like that's.
So
No,
I mean,
he's ordered it, hasn't he?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
So
there yet.
you would
Oh, right.
imagine. To be fair, he didn't really tell you, but
No,
you would imagine that there needs to be at least a little bit of time.
I thought that, but then I just assumed this was stuff he was ordering anyways, or he's going to send a message or something, and then we just pick it up. Because all he said was, "Here, go to this store, pick up this, and come back to me in 2 days."
Yeah, he did.
So that was why I just kind of assumed.
absent-mindedly. Yeah.
Yeah, what he said was, "I'm going to order it, and you can pick it up for me." He didn't say when.
No.
So I was assuming on the way back here, when we're ready, get this stuff on the way.
I'd say for Dante, because it was coming to maybe 3, 4. In the time it would take to get down there, a lot of the stores would be closing. So it's probably something better to do tomorrow anyway. As you do exit the Zenith Ward, you would see the crowds of people spilling out from the Bastion, a definite sign that the announcements are done and that the handing over, at least for the public, has finished. And they're not heading in one direction. They're almost dispersing and all that, you know what I mean? It's almost like the crowds after a concert's finished that are all just heading to their fastest way to wherever they're going. So they are sort of moving together in mass for a bit, and then a few will break off and a few will break off and more will join. And but you would be able to clearly see them. I'd say that Dante, you could fairly successfully avoid them.
Just fly over the top of them.
I mean, you could give me a check to try and jump this vehicle without a jump mechanic.
I mean, I would probably be
Natural
suggesting
20.
Oh,
I was full on expecting a 2 or like single digits, but no.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. So you almost replicating what you had practiced in the race, running up to the edge of the curb. And I'm gonna say probably not immediately, but there's a section where they're like hustling and bustling, and they're looking at something, and they're in the way of a junction, and you pop yourself up onto the curb, kicking up the other side at the same time, and managing to. I imagine there's a hat that gets swooped off as you go over the top of the crowd before landing on the other side.
He reaches down and just takes it.
That definitely, however, grabs the attention of the crowd. That now, as you're sort of moving down, you would hear someone shouting like, "Hey, is that the Chaotic Embers?" And people start to like run down the street trying to catch up and see if it is you. And
nice one, Dante.
Good mood.
Are you planning to try and lose them, and where are you going now as you're heading downwards?
I was going to a shop, but I've now been told there's no point. So
well, I would have suggested the Scriptorium though to meet up with Ichi.
Okay, I'll start heading over to the Scriptorium, and I'm going to try to speed off and lose people, have a bit of fun with it. Because
okay, so I'm going to ask for another. I'm going to ask for it. So it's going to be a dexterity because it's going to be a driving check to see if you can lose the crowd. And for the others, are you assist before he rolls? Are you assisting at all? Obviously, you would see the people behind that are trying to. They're you can tell that they're imagining that you're heading to a pub or heading to your private place to go and party with the champions, and like they're just trying to see where you're going. Like they're not able to fully keep up, but at every corner they're sort of shouting like that way, quick. And you would see every now and again like a younger child or teen would pop out of an alleyway where they've taken a back street and tried to cut you off, and
I mean, there's not a lot I can do, to be honest, to stop people.
We're just clinging on as he's launching the vehicle in the air. And
Are you sure, Volu? Are you sure that's all you're doing?
This would be a bit after. We're talking like 5 minutes after the jump. You know, they followed you down the street and a few turns, and it. You know,
But Dante will take a bit of a scenic route just because now he's having fun with them.
What I would do though is, I'm not happy about this at all. If I recognize whereabouts I am, and I'm seeing that Dante's doing this bit of a windy scenic route, I would wait till we'd gone round a corner and just say to Volo, "See you there," and almost like roll off.
Yeah. Give me a stealth.
Yeah.
As you dive off the moving vehicle.
18.
Expertly rolling into a small bit of shrubbery and lying still for a second, almost allowing your coat to like messily fall over the top of you and just staying still as you roll out of your position. The vehicle keeps going. Volu, there's a.
Oh my god! Wait! Like being left on my own with Dante.
The last thing Eleni needs right now is being recognised and followed.
That's true. Dante didn't think of that.
Yeah. So you're in trouble. She's rolled off and she's left you to it.
After everything's been going on, he's a little bit nervy, and he's like, if Tenebrae comes out right now, like, he's not in a position to.
He can handle it.
I don't.
Well, as apparently Volu doesn't want to make my life easier, I'll just roll a normal Dex driving check.
I think that was a big hint in flashing lights.
Oh, I 100% understood what Chris was saying, but Volu
just didn't want to do it.
Volu is also not very keen on this and wants him to wind his neck in. So he's not going to be like, "Oh, I'll give you a hand." It's like, well, no, it's more like,
well, fine, okay, well, you deserve whatever comes. So, do you say, is this acrobatics or is this a save?
No, wait. So if you're not proficient in acrobatics, then you can roll acrobatics, but it's just your Dex modifier.
Okay, so 15.
Okay, so it takes you a little longer than you maybe want. You sort of have to do a few loops of the Mythic Ward. And in the end, I think you turn into the Azure Academy Spire before taking the routes down, you know, where you followed the warehouses and you went and found the sort of like really dense student areas. You sort of twist into them and like you lose them down one of the side streets before making your way back up. So I will pause there on you as Eleni. You would make it to the scriptorium.
I would have used disguise self as well.
The dog is still just sort of sat on the back of the cart as well, just waiting.
Yeah, I would have also used my disguise self to because I've got still a spell slot left. So I would have, when everybody had gone past, I would have disguised self back into that sort of human form that that I've used previously. And hopefully I'd get to the scriptorium and be sat on the steps outside waiting for them when they roll up.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd say in this time you would actually see there's like a large path that heads in between two glass buildings that look like they are the same building that have been like snapped in half almost. And you sort of sat on the scriptorium steps looking over at the Hall of Sages, which is the library. And as the group are pulling up, you would see Ichi stepping out of the library side and sort of stretching his arms and a little bit, and he sort of sees you and heads over. Dante, you would be able to pull up and see Eleni looking a little frustrated.
Eleni's going to blank Dante completely, and sort of gesture to the dog, like sort of do a bit of a whistle, and then head over towards Ichi.
Dante, with his perception and insight, Has no acknowledgement of this at all.
No.
Bolo, you would see Eleni.
I'm sat there kind of like in my reaction now, just being like, "What the flip is he doing?" And then as Dante finally gets out, then I'll get out afterwards.
Okay. So each will come over and say, I wasn't expecting to see you. Everything go okay with Dimitrius?
He is going to try to bind Tenebris to the sword. It does mean breaking what your master has done and releasing him for a time.
Okay. Well, we will have to be prepared. How long do we have?
2 days.
Oh, okay. You don't move slow, do you, Dante?
No.
There is a price, which is less than I thought it would be. But when we get back, there is some other very strange stuff in that house and strange visitors.
Yes, let's discuss it when we return. For you guys, he will say that they're sort of researched out for the day. It's not that they're closed or anything. He will be able to tell you that they've found that the symbols seem to be Lyrixan, definitely in nature, and they found some evidence of back when Lyrixa was prevalent. They had a lot of sometimes their servants were golems, and definitely after the the catastrophe, the spell gone wrong that happened with Lyrixa, Vicar looking golems started to appear in almost like a badge or symbol of the gift given, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so I'm all researched out for now. I was going to well, see where you were, but then head back maybe. Do we need to do anything else today? I mean, also, sorry, I was going to ask, does this mean we don't need to go see Sir Arthur? They should be back this evening, I think.
Was it this evening?
No, sorry, tomorrow. Tomorrow
Yeah.
morning. It's the day after.
Day after the handover.
Eleni wants to call back to see. Oh, actually, no. Dana won't have stuff ready yet, will she?
No.
So no, but about Sir Arthur, she would say, I would really like to meet him. I'm not sure about him meeting Dante, but if you want to see him, Ichi, I'm happy to come with you.
Back up to whatever that place was would be good as well, just in case.
Got one option to potentially get rid of Tenebris from me. E.g., you believe that Sir Arthur can help him as well?
I think if he can't help, then he definitely might know somebody who can, or know something.
Then it is an option as well. It's best to keep our options open.
Okay. Well, if you don't need anything of me tonight, I will head back. And they, well, it depends. It's up to you. Do you want to head back with and rest for have an early night, or do you want to still burn some of the evening oils?
Do we want to at all check out the caves?
The catacombs. That's what I was just wondering. I don't know. In the dark and having used some of my spell slots.
I'm saying I've used one. I've used like 2. I'm okay for spell slots.
If it is in the dark, it's in the catacombs. Doesn't matter if it's day or light. But
That is true.
however, I see no need to go into the catacombs. Why risk things when we can sort out the stuff we know?
It doesn't have to always be about one thing, though. We can do multiple things. Volley will be a little bit shirty with Dante because we've kind of just followed his lead. He's then took us on a wild goose chase in the car. Not goose chase. It took us on a wild ride.
Yeah.
Is what the phrase used. And the conversation with Eleni earlier will be playing on Volu's mind, where he was almost focusing so much on Dante that he's forgetting why he needed his information as well. He's just feeling a little bit like doesn't have to all be about Dante. We can do multiple things.
I have to say that maybe tonight we have a quiet night. I have things to do tomorrow. I'd like to see High Priest Arcanair again at some point. But I think I need to keep a low profile. I mean, Volo, if you want to go back to the pub and meet up with Alara or others and have a drink, then that's fine. I'd rather not be spotted, if that makes sense.
I think that is a wise move.
Oh, I'm glad you agree.
Where are we at the moment?
So you guys right now are
Scriptorium.
you're right in between the Scriptorium and the Hall of Sages. So the Hall of Sages is the actual just library bit. So, and you would be able to see, having been, stood around here for a minute, the Hall of Sages closes at like nightfall, like full, essentially like 7-8 p.m. sort of thing.
So we could do some more research if we wanted to.
There's still time. Ichi's leaving because he spent the last 2 hours doing some, and he's not exactly research. He's not like a wizard that loves the books. But you would also notice that the Scriptorium is 24 hours. And Volu, if you remember, when you go in, you can't just go in and access stuff. You walk into like a glass room and you have to present your access and request things. And that's almost because you would know that the difference there is that the Scriptorium is specifically focusing on historical texts, and they it is the piece. They're not like, it's not a book written about history, it's the piece of history. So you request access and then you're able to access it under their terms so that they can protect it. Whereas the library is just access the library. But obviously that needs to be watched and manned, and that's why they have times.
Liam,
Yeah.
I mean, we're a whole continent away, but in the Hall of Sages then, is there anything like sort of almost like, I'm thinking like a newspaper, but like events that are happening around the world that are being recorded somewhere?
I think
if they've heard of them.
I think that would be more Scriptorium.
Okay.
Because it's like that's like specifically historical events and artifacts.
But I'm talking about like recent, like if something had happened, I don't know, if a volcano erupted on the other side of the world last year, obviously right now for us in real life,
I don't
you'd
think
have like a record of that.
I don't think there's newspapers
or even
such,
political
but there definitely would be somebody keeping a record of like natural disasters and
What
changes in
politics?
leaders. Yeah, changes in leaders would definitely be. I imagine that wouldn't be in the history of the place. You know what I mean? You would go and look at the history of Vercel, and it would talk about its leaders here, its leaders here. You go and look at the history of Ogasliv, and again, it will give.
So if I wanted to go and look at Andon and the place that I'm from to see who the ruler in that city currently is,
Obviously you would have to, and you would know this. You have to factor in for like if it's in the last 6 months, it's probably not going to be correct. If there's been a change.
Oh no, but
But
I'm
in terms
thinking
of
yeah. I might want to do that then if they're open and that's something that I can do. I want to see if my husband's political machinations, is that the right word? Succeeded.
Yeah.
Dante would like, if we're going to start doing any research, because he's not really sure if he necessarily needs to do any research right now on anything. So if anybody needs a hand looking into anything, I am very happy to help.
Thank you.
Happy to do some research, Valo, if we want before we go back.
Perhaps you and Dante could check out the scriptorium for what you need, and I can. I've only got about an hour left, but I'll start skimming in the Hall of Sages, seeing if I can find anything.
Okay.
We'll meet
Send
back
to me
here.
when you're ready to leave.
The scriptorium doesn't close, so when I'm kicked out of the Hall of Sages, I'll meet you there,
Okay.
and then I'll waddle off. Each can choose to go back if he wants. Like let's say like Dante's, we've got him under control. It's up to him what he wants to do. But
Dante under control.
We have the package. We have the package. the flame is quenched. The flame is quashed. No smoke on the horizon. But yes. So, if are we splitting that way, Eleni and Dante are going to head into the scriptorium, and Volu's going to head towards the library. When so I'll start with Eleni and Dante. When you enter into, and for the first time for you, but obviously we've been here before. It's you walk into a strangely lit room where it looks like it's all glass. You don't see any lights, but you can see in here, and it's not like dark vision seeing. It's color and everything's bright. But past the glass is just darkness, endlessly darkness, and almost you can see maybe the reflections of things every now and again, almost like more layers of glass behind the glass. And there are stations along the furthest wall.
Okay. Is there anybody around that I can ask for help, or
no people around? There's markings on the floor that show to what, almost like walk like an arrow pointing to the station.
I would approach then.
As you approach up, almost like in the reflection, you would see the visage of. It's almost the silhouette of a person that sort of appears in the glass and says, "Welcome to the scriptorium. Please give your name or present your identification."
I would get the pass or whatever we were given from Alar Moonshadow as our reward and present that.
There's almost just that brief moment. They don't look or move or anything. It's not like they look at it, but there's a moment of almost scanning maybe. Before, how may we help you, Eleni?
Thank you. I am looking for recent political events in Andon.
There's a pause in the scanning. There have been no recent political changes. They would say there is evidence of a fall in political power in the last 50 years due to the lack of pressing from their current leader for war. And to be fair, you would kind of know this when obviously the way Yixen became the Yixen was by expansion, and definitely aided by their force of gunpowder and cannons, through persuasion or pure brute force. They expanded out fairly rapidly. They had it took a very long time. It was almost a stalemate of a war that people almost don't even count as a war, because basically the Yixen army marched up to the border of Giskia, was held there for 10 years, and then had to retreat due to lack of resources and ability to continue the fight. And when the last when the last emperor switched and it was passed on to his son, the son started to take a much more economic route and started saying, okay, let's consolidate what we've got, and started doing those kind of changes. And even when you remember being back there was definitely, actually, from what you heard, excitement around it, because it was talking about bringing some of those rural villages more funds and bigger farmlands, and almost like putting money into the small people that have been keeping the empire going. And he was you could definitely see it as like he was trying to appease to a different crowd still. But from your perspective, that was only ever seen as good. But you didn't interact with big city folk that, maybe had stake in things.
So I would then say, so is there any record of any events in Middenstad?
Again, they scan. No recorded events.
Okay. Finally, do you have any information about... Sorry, let me just check my map again. I stupidly closed it before I should have done.
Engum.
Well, Engham's the smaller place, so I'm assuming that's not. But I'm going to say, do you have any information about Arvova Forest, historical?
They would scan for a moment. They would scholarly articles, research into the ironwood forest. Ironwood trees were known and prized around the globe for their properties. Then it sort of scans and flicks again a few other things. Evidence of Yixen expansion saw rapid decline of Arvova forest and restrictions to its resources. And sort of after it gives evidence, when it says a thing, it does say, like, would you like to see the piece? There's like what they've got. But it's not like showing on there, but they sort of say, we have evidence, blah, 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 blah. Would you like to see it? And sort of check it for yourselves. Would you like to validate this with your, those sorts of things?
I mean, that's pretty much what we were told, wasn't it? Ironwood. I don't know if we called it Ironwood, but that
was the thing that I remember the name. I did not remember any of the
I think we
rest
said
of
it was like a grey oak tree almost.
It is a grey oak tree.
Yeah.
You didn't know anything else of the other stuff.
I was about to say, do we remember the name of the oak tree? So
no, they were just it was like a grey.
It
was you were just told a grey oak. You are muted. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, we never learnt it.
I would
We
say
just learned that it was a grey oak tree.
and that it was found there in Arvova
Osgiliv.
Forest and also on Osgiliv in the areas close to the sulfur pits.
I would ask for, are there any remaining plantations of ironwood left? Where are they?
Evidence suggests in recent years the Yixan are controlling the growth of the ironwood left in the Arvova. There are also small pockets found on Ogazliv, though no substantial forest such as Arvova.
I want to look at Dante. I don't know what else to ask.
Weren't they sought after, chased, like, wasn't it the village Volu lived in?
Yeah, but it was next to the forest. If the forest was destroyed,
But did they have any records on the village?
I'll ask. Is there any record of a village in Arvova?
We would scan. No named village, though named leader.
What is the name of the leader?
Show me the article.
So you would see now when you ask to show the article, the glass slides back. The image states so that it was what the glass that the image is on slides, and the image sort of slides with it, but it almost sort of turns to still be facing, and you would see a very short corridor, and there's almost like lockers. Like it's almost like you're walking into like a vault.
Yeah.
And there's lockers of sort of different sizes, and one locker further down highlights, like almost like with the light spell. I would say you guys would recognize the threshold of this is more like a portal than it is a door.
Interesting. Okay.
Like you don't think you're stepping into behind the glass.
I think it's another place again. Okay. I would head down to the one that's lit up.
As you approach, you'd see a space, and there's no sort of indication of what to do, but you see a space that is the same shape as your ID.
Okay. Put it in.
Yeah, you sort of position it, and the opens up, and you are able to pull out a it's almost like plastic sealed, but there is an account written from a traveling adventurer that wrote of the Battle of the Iron Wastes, which was said to be east of the, and this is from the writing, it is to the east of the desert of Yixam. I'd say that the only sort of thing that you could pick up that might be that is this sort of area here, where there is a large stretch of.
You'll have to swap us to the right map.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just pinging on the wrong map. I'll wait for you to switch subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this little stretch here, that's the sort of area where it begins to turn from fully, so it sort of goes like desert, wasteland, and then it's like grassy plains, and then it sort of becomes the sort of lush forested area.
Yeah.
So this open area here is sort of known as the Iron Waste, almost, from what it seems to be referencing. And it talks about a halfling leader. So sorry, I'm trying to find them in my notes. He's known as Galor Giant Shadow.
Galore Giant Shadow.
Galore.
Led apparently what the author describes as a peasant army in fancy armor. And again, this is almost like it's written from this person's inflection and everything. It's very much, it wasn't written to be informative. It's almost journaled.
Yeah.
And they describe this Galore Giant Shadow leading this peasant army in fancy armor and wielding fancy weapons that held the narrow pass for a number of days before, apparently, according to the author, surrendering. They trail it off in a no sort of accounts afterwards. They're sort of like almost like I must look at more sort of thing. And next to it is a little placard that says extract from journal found on the west coast of Ogresliv.
Okay. Is there a name of the person who wrote it?
No, it says an author unknown.
Okay. I'm going to speak out loud because I'm assuming that the thing that I was talking to earlier might still be there or still be in earshot. And I'm going to say, is there any way that I can create a copy of this document?
If you take the time, you can physically copy anything you can see, but we cannot remove the piece from its protective casing.
Okay. I mean, I suppose we can come back, can't we? I have a box of pencils. So I have
I was going to say, doesn't Dante have a notebook?
Yeah, and I would say, to be honest, as I would say, Eleni sort of like looking through the bag and stuff and looking at stuff, they would say, we can also make a note of this piece if you are collecting evidence for research or.
Was the name of because I remember the annoying thing here is I don't remember this D&D thing or work thing. and I've done my Chris thing of just making a name up that fits. But is it Arvover?
It's
Arvova.
So it's Arvova, but we thought originally it was called half over.
I was calling it half over as Volu because he misheard.
Well, Volu was essentially like a 4-year-old when he disappeared. So he was still only just forming his understanding of his surroundings. And as many small children do, half pronounced a thing.
Yeah, so he called it half over, and that's what we were looking for first. And then we heard that actually there was this forest called Arvova, which is on the main map.
Yeah.
I
for some reason I thought that was what it was called now, and it had changed names.
So that is sort of where it was, but I think that area was much more forested, wasn't it?
We looked at a map and it just disappeared off the map. It was called Arvova Forest for ages. Then the next map, just no record.
Over the years, it just disappeared.
So that you would have, if at some point you would definitely be able to see like an older map, and you would see that the forest used to be like that.
Yeah, used to be much bigger. I would say yes, please. Can you bookmark this article?
So essentially, they will explain that it will attach to your ID, so that when you show it, they'll sort of say, "Do you want to see all the things you've been looking at recently, or are we looking at something new?" It's that sort of.
And then I would say, please search for Galore Giant Shadow.
Okay. They will ask you to step back out.
Yeah.
They close shut again, and they start to sort of think and process. And as they're doing that bit, I will quickly flick over to Volley. And before we continue, we're not going to go too long. So Volley, what are you head on in, you sort of see that behind the desk, there's a very, very large, grand looking desk in the center of the room. You see there's two attendants sort of chatting and playing, they're entertaining themselves as they're sort of finishing up the shift. They're like 2 hours away from closing. They sort of look up and give you a wave.
Oh.
Again, you sort of, with the library, there's a whole public section that you could be using, so they don't really check you for that sort of stuff. But what are you going to begin to look for?
I will begin to look for elemental links and the Brass City.
Okay, so and as you walk in, again, it's this grand sort of entryway, and you can see that there's like bookshelves left and right and different corridors up, the stairways that go up, and you can almost see like balconies and bridges that cross above you, that almost from room to room almost. And you start making your way through, and you can see actually there's like signs on like the bookshelves, and like you can see this, magical, things of arcana, and you sort of like looking down, and you can begin moving. Give me an investigation.
Investigation. Oh. I was like, I'll use a new dice. It might bring me luck, and I got a 5.
Okay, so it's very, very big, very, very confusing, and you go around a little bit. Like you were definitely following down towards elemental, and then you got to elemental cheese. What? Fuck. Shit. And you're not quite sure how you got into this. You're now in the food section, and there's recipes and cookbooks.
Oh no!
Yeah. I'd say sort of after noticing you sort of lap once or twice, one of the attendants almost again in the like they're checking to see if they can help you so that you can leave faster. But there's can we help you find what you're looking for at all, buddy?
Yes. I keep ending up at the cheese, and I don't know why. Please, can I look into things about the fire plane? I have a good amount of access, and I'll pull out my thing. So anything special, any special sections I should be allowed into?
Is it if you are to explain if you come across things, there may be magical seals that prevent the books from opening. You present your pass.
Oh, okay. So I've only received this recently.
There is a section.
New scholar and all.
There is a section further in the back that is there will be doors that you can enter, but for what you're asking for, it should be fairly simple if you head on down, and they will guide you to where you are looking to go. Drop me another investigation. I'm going to say give me 2, and this will be the sort of 2 hours that you're going to be delving into books.
Yes.
So the first one is 16, and then I'll listen to the whisper in the back of my head that sounds a lot like Chris. And guidance, the second one.
It's funny how many people say that, and they really should listen to that voice more often. It's far more fun.
Cocked. What is it? +4, isn't it?
D4.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant. 2, 16, 18.
Okay, so over the 2 hours, you're going to read multitudes of books, different sections, different places, and different journals that point you to other books, and there's a whole time of it. And I feel by the time that there is an attendant stood waiting for you to leave, you're like surrounded by a little fort of different books open, making a nest out of the pages almost. But you would learn the following. So you easily find a bunch of information about the fire plane itself. There are multiple notes that elemental forces from the inner planes are actually constantly interacting with the material plane just through natural conduits. The writer gives examples of the fire plane. You can often find fire plane portals inside volcanoes. There are planes to the water plane in the depths of the ocean. Airplane portals way up in the sky, and that often when we see extreme large natural disasters that are unnatural in nature, that can be evidence of the energy spilling through that natural conduit. It does even mention earthquakes as being like almost some earthquakes might be ripples from the plane of Earth passing through the portal and into our world. You would be able to learn about the plane of fire. You would learn that it is particularly volatile. Volcanoes, wildfires, and deserts. They are also the things that seem to that are said to replicate. So even in the depths of the desert, there are said to be portals to the fire plane. You know that for the most of it, it is a fairly wild, untamed place. With only the Brass City being like a beacon of any sort of civilization in the entire place, from what you're reading. You do also find out that one of the reasons that summoning fire elementals is so easy is because of the volatile nature of them. But also you learn that summoning fire elementals nearly always is visible from the side of the fire plane. So a particularly knowledgeable Ifriti or other fire plane creature would notice if the creature over there was summoned away, right? It's noticeable from their end as well. And there is a few notes in there about warning against wizards that are going to mess with or try to summon creatures from the fire plane as almost a warning of be very careful who you're summoning and know their name, because if you summon the wrong one, they might actually be serving something very powerful that understands what you've just done and comes to deal with the person that just basically kidnapped their servant, right? Or their whoever. You would also learn that there are a number of anchors that are not known particularly, but this is like one of the ones, and it does mention in here, there is an anchor to multiple planes. But there are anchors to the fire plane, but nearly all of them are guarded by elementals that work for the Afritis that rule the Brass City. The Brass City is ruled over by powerful Afriti lords. They are known for dealing in long-term contracts and pacts. They offer knowledge, elemental minions, or even just access to the fire plane past their guardians that would restrict all from its treasures. However, they are extremely cunning and notorious for twisting, extending, or tricking the receiver of the bargain into a much longer or worse contract than they were ready for. You would learn that the Brass City is constructed entirely of gleaming brass. It is enchanted to withstand the searing heat of the fire plane. It serves as a major trade hub between all of the planes. So it is almost like a central point that every single plane touches to or has access to and visits regularly. All within inside the Brass City are protected from the heat of the fire plane. And for many powerful wizards and elementalists, the place to come for, to get introduced to a creature of another plane for more permanent contracts of servitude, it is the place to go. And I say, Volu, as again, you sort of look up from your book 4, and one of the attendants is like, don't worry about the books, but I'm afraid the library is closing. They will all be still here for you tomorrow, but I'm afraid we are finishing for the evening. Would you like to take the names of the books so that you can? We could put them aside for you if you want.
That would be very helpful. Thank you. Yes, I'd like to continue reading.
Okay, they'll take all the books that you currently had open and were reading, and so they won't do the ones that are like at the side or whatever. But the ones you were currently reading, they'll take them all up. You would see they put a little piece of paper or card in each of the pages where you were reading from, and these will be at the desk. If you present your card and ask whoever is attending tomorrow, they will be able to give these back to you.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
And also, just so you're aware, if you do not come back to read them within 5 days, they will be returned to the shelves.
Very well.
Thank you. Have a good night. And Volu, as you head out and head over towards the scriptorium, that is where we will call the end of part 2. Thank you very much for watching. As always, thank you very much for playing. If you're excited to see what the players might find out, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you know when the videos are coming out. And as always, roll well.